Alrighty then. I think it was the poet laureate of our times, one Lee Ryan of Blue, who said, "We got the city on lockdown." And he was right, but he's not the only one. And we are on lockdown, and for good reason as well. But within Watopia, they can't lock us down. And that is where we are for the final of our stages of the tour of Watopia, which has just been great, hasn't it? And if you notice that, yes, I'm currently on my own. I'm trying to put the social into social isolation. No Hannah Walker with me because of everything that's going on. Everyone's not just 2 meters away. They're about 2,000 meters away from me right now. But excited to be with you right now for what is going to be a cracking hour, because we have not just one, but 2 races on the way. So just one of me, but 2 races. And yeah, we're going to finish off this tour of Watopia in Zwift's most populous and favorite world. Everyone loves it. And you may have run it, ridden it, raced it, however you've done it multiple times. If you're Rhea Hubel, my favorite Canadian on the planet, double XP, lots of people have been leveling up the levels, new glasses, new hats, new bikes, new wheels, new the works, because that's what this has been all about. And I am right now out of my cyber kitchen, where we did the last show, stage 4, and now into my pain cave, which is a work in progress. It is a little cold. If the camera panned that way, which it won't, you would notice that I tried to drink a coffee on my turbo trainer. This is normally where my turbo trainer is. I've moved it out of the way. And I spilt it all over the wall. I've been unable to get it off. Yeah, look at that. At some point, I'll sort it out. But yeah, excited to be here to find out who's going to take home the yellow jerseys. The women's race will be second. Men will be first. Last time out, they're all going to go around the volcano circuit, by the way. Last time out, we saw that Jonathan Levi held on to that fabulous yellow jersey. Top 5 separated by just 16 points. But they are closing on him, and they absolutely put him under tons of pressure. But that fabulous, beautiful yellow jersey, one of the few that'll be contested in 2020, is still on his back. And the jungle circuit was absolute madness. Off-road, mountain bikes, which mess with my OCD. And don't tell any of my roadie friends. I mean, my road bike is just there to the left of me. I'm a roadie through and through. But I love the off-road, the racing, the bikes, the track, the big old Indiana Jones rope bridge. It was brilliant. It was great to see it. The men's peloton, they are on their 3rd and final test. As I said, it's the final one. The men, they will be in their own pain caves like mine right now, warming up ahead of this race, which is 11 minutes away. Let's take a look at some of the riders who are out there right now. We have some of their feeds. That we can see is Gavin Dempster, who you may notice is he has the beautiful hair blowing his wonderful, the beautiful fan blowing his hair around, but he's in his toilet. You can see that just behind him, he's in his toilet, which is what Chris Hoy used to do. He used to train in hallways and in toilets, because it means if you go super hard on the turbo and you fall off, you're not going to fall too far. So, yeah, Gavin Dempster ready to go, and he was very, very good in that last race, very much animating the race. Now, Hannah Walker was supposed to be with me today. It didn't come together. She was with me last time, but not this time. But you can never keep a good woman down. So let's get some pre-race analysis from bizarrely sunny South Wales with the Walker.
Now, we've seen 2 very different profiles and parcours for the 2 races. However, that's not affected the outcome of the races at all, both finishing in a bunch sprint. In race 2, we saw something very new and different in Zwift racing. Riders using a mountain bike on the jungle loop, with some riders from Canyon ZTC opting for the gravel bike. Now, for me, the standout moments from the races have been those bunch sprints. They've been fast and furious. It's always been a very exciting end to the racing. However, the standout performances from riders, in stage 1, it was Jonathan Levi being able to take out the bunch sprint, using that aero power up at the perfect time. From my experience, very difficult to time it to perfection in the bunch sprint, whereas in race 2 it was James Phillips. He went early with Nico Heslich, got swamped by the bunch. He was able to recover in time and come back and finish second in the bunch sprint. So 2 of my standout performances there. What has that told us about the riders going into stage 3? Well, it's going to be very fast and furious racing tonight. Everyone's going to be wanting to score as many points in the intermediate sprint and the finish as possible. And of course, all the points that riders score throughout the race go towards the overall classification. Now, the man in the coveted yellow jersey, Jonathan Levi, has a 12-point buffer to his nearest rival. However, he can't get complacent tonight. There's several very consistent riders, Ryan Larson, Lionel Viasin, James Phillips and Sam Brenland. They will be hoping to score as many points tonight to try and knock Levi off that top spot. Now, my pick for tonight's stage, looking at the profile and how it will be raced, I think I'm going to go for James Phillips. He can recover very, very well. He's got huge strength and power, and you know, he's got a very good sprint at the end as well. I do think we will see another bunch sprint. For the overall classification and to take home that yellow jersey, I think Jonathan Levi will be able to hold on and take that overall classification. He's shown that he can time things to perfection. He can use the power-ups to his advantage, and I think this is what will let him take the yellow jersey home tonight. So OJ, over to you in the studio.
Loving Hannah's setup there in a bizarrely sunny South Wales. Now, if you want to get in touch, you can do during this race. I've got my laptop open just to the left of me. I've been looking at all the comments that are coming in on Facebook and on YouTube as well. And if you want to hashtag it on any other social medias, that'd be Twitter or Instagram, then hashtag Tour of Watopia is the way to do that. Let us know who you're picking, not just to win the race, but to win the overall. Who is going home with that virtual yellow jersey, the digital yellow jersey, which I hope they get to keep and keep in their armory until the next Tour of Watopia. Hashtag Tour of Watopia if you want to hashtag it up. Now, throughout this series, lots of my friends have said, who are these people dropping watt bombs during the races? And I think it's an interesting point because you watch them race and there's orange numbers all over the place and these amazing feats of endurance and power and speed and timing. And it is good to find out who these people are, the characters behind the avatars. And we did that before the lockdown when we could still travel. We went up to Scotland in the UK to meet up with Team Draft's Gavin Dempster and hear how he mixes riding on Zwift with riding on the road.
Cycling in the Highlands, the scenery is incredible. Most of the winter is just ice and snow and it is a long winter. But when you get the odd day of summer, it's brilliant. Loads of lovely, beautiful, quiet roads and really scenic spots. There's nothing better. I live in Inverness. It's the capital of the Highlands. I can literally leave my house out at the bottom of the street, turn left, and I'm right onto the road that takes me down to Loch Ness. You're just straight out into the countryside. So normally in a race day, you have to get up really early. You've then got to drive about 4 hours. You get out of the car and you don't feel fresh. Your legs have stiffened up. You don't feel like you want to just jump straight on a bike and start racing. So I've just joined Tervello Racing, which is a new team. This was like yesterday was our first race. It's a Scottish team, and most of the guys in Tervello are known for years, so it's different because like a lot of them are friends, so you know them really well. To race indoors, you need a specific set of skills. There are differences. You need to be better at certain things, better at shorter efforts, better at repeating short efforts. There are similarities and there's big differences, but a lot of the skills transfer across both ways. Yesterday's race outside, there was a lot of team tactics. It was dominated by two teams, and that can happen on Zwift as well. We're seeing more and more of that where teams can dominate races. I started riding on Zwift when it was in beta. I really got stuck into the racing when they launched the eCrit Championships a couple of years ago. And when the qualifiers for that were on, I thought I'd give that a go. And I qualified and then won the final. so then after that, I was all in on Zwift racing. And I really started to see the benefits of it in real life racing as well. Has given me a lot more confidence to try things outside. Like if you attack, if you're in a breakaway, you know exactly how your body's going to react. When you try things in races outside, you're not scared to try things because you know you've been in that situation hundreds of times in Zwift races. You know how it's going to go, and a lot of the time it's quite similar. I can train really effectively from home and then jump into a race and perform well. There's a big series on Zwift. I will train specifically for that rather than training for outside races. Zwift racing's brought me to a level of fitness that I'd never achieved from just purely training outside and purely doing like structured training. Zwift racing has just pulled me up to another level. You're racing against some of the strongest guys in the world, and the level that gets you to, it just brings you on so much further than you would just doing a normal training session. I train so much harder if I'm racing than I do if I'm just doing an interval session.
There, what a guy. Sorry, I was just replying to a message from Hannah Walker who's just told me that the name of her dog is Dewey. Gavin Dempster, it's going to be amazing. Looking forward to seeing him racing later on. He'll be racing on one of two stages. Well, it's the same stage, men and women racing on it. The men are first, but let's take a look at stage 5. Matt Stevens has the details.
Stage 5. In this stage, we're taking on some of the hottest routes on Watopia. Ride around the volcano, but don't go off into the lava, whatever you do. Whether it's on the volcano climb or on the crit circuit, bring the heat and enjoy the fiery finale. The A Group. The longer ride option takes you for a couple of laps around Watopia before a summit finish at the top of the volcano. Find the group for you and brace yourself for a volcanic finish. The B Group. The shorter group ride option takes on 2 laps of the volcano flat course. Find the pace that suits you best and enjoy a spin around the island and its stunning volcano. The C Group. The women take on 2 laps of the volcano flat course. Enjoy the final ride of this tour with a cruise around some of the flattest roads Watopia has to offer. The race features 3 laps of the volcano circuit CCW. Despite its mostly flat appearance, this course can be tricky with more ups and downs than you'd think. Bunch sprint or breakaway. It'll be up to the riders to decide. One thing's for sure, it's going to be a hot one. This stage's run event is a 30-minute workout around the volcano circuit. Pace yourself and enjoy the sights inside the fiery mountain. Drink, hydrate, and repeat.
Going to be crazy fast over and over again, I think, here.
Yeah, definitely. Good to be here again, Nathan. A double header today, men's and women's. It's been mentioned before. 20 seconds to go, but yeah, there's a maximum of 59 points on offer for somebody that could win the race and win both of the hotspot sprints. So things could change on the overall classification. Jonathan Levy in that yellow jersey has a 10-point buffer from James Phillips from Canyon ZCC, but everything could change. It's a short race. As you said, it's going to be fast and furious. Well, what Zwift race isn't? The series has been absolutely amazing so far. As we look at the stats of Gavin Dempster straight out of the blocks, kicking out 500 watts. Unsurprisingly, very, very fast indeed. This is going to be a superb race, but we've got a 2.6 kilometre run in to the circuit. And then, as you said, Nathan, 3 laps of 4.1 Ks.
And for this race, for those that might be a little bit unfamiliar with this course out here, it is an interesting course as far as who might be able to excel. The final kick, it's a 2-tier kick. A lot of these racers will be extremely familiar with it. About 2 years ago, I think, the first time that we really started seeing some of the broadcasts on this specific course. Gavin Dempster will be very familiar with that specifically, as he did win a spot to a final in London specifically on this course. So I'd be watching out for him. I think
Power-ups early on. We've got to see it. We see a ghost power-up there. For anybody wondering what that is, that isn't Pac-Man. That's basically an invisibility cloak that cloaks the rider for 10 seconds. But we have seen those used in the finale. But no, this is going to be a fascinating race. I think it's going to suit the more punchier riders. But as you said, you can go long on that little kick to the line as well. The finish line is inside the center of the volcano. And as we said, riders will pass through the finish on 3 occasions. Second time through, well, first and second time through, they're going to be points on the line. But again, I think it could stay all together. We could be treated to a big bunch kick, I think, in this one.
Yeah, a lot of times on this course, especially with how short the course is and the short the race is with only 3 laps. You know, the only thing that I think that might change that up, though, Matt, may be the reality of these sprints. With 12 points on the line, what was the totals? You did the math better than me. But there's some reality that there's a lot on the line that I
be very active early on and very, very aggressive, and use your resources, use your teammates as best you can. Because to get back to that question on points, just to reiterate it to anybody who's watching, there's a maximum of 59 points on offer for one person tonight. I mean, the top 25 places on first across line at the finish is a 35, 30, 25, all the way down to 1 point. So the first 25 score points. But then the hotspot sprints classification, they count towards the overall classification as well, towards that yellow jersey. And there's 2 opportunities to score: 12, 10, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the first 10 riders across the line at each hotspot sprint can score. And mathematically, somebody, if they're feeling very, very strong, and we've seen it before in the women's race, we've seen Mary Wilkinson win the race and 2 hotspot sprints. There are 59 points on offer. So that kind of scoring could catapult somebody into the win without a shadow of a doubt. So you have to be aggressive all the way through and make sure you're at least chipping away at points in the hotspot sprints.
Yeah, looking through the flatter section. So this is the first time through the volcano. They will be starting the laps on the actual volcano here, coming on through as they come into the volcano a second time. They'll come down the scenic area next to the volcano, next to the ocean. But as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, for those of you that might be unfamiliar, they're just tuning in for the first time for Zwift racing, you do see everybody's positions as for the top 10, as well as their current watts per kilogram, the seconds that they may be behind. The watts per kilogram are the amount of watts they are currently putting out divided by their body weight in order to give a in real life type performance in the virtual world for each one of those avatars that are gaining a draft actually from the other avatars that are around them right now. The stats on the top, self-explanatory: 14.1 to go 3K in, lap 1 of 3, 4 minutes of racing down. Any kind of kicks that may have happened are kind of over at this point, and I think the riders are kind of getting into that holding hands, waiting for that first 2-tier kick into their first lap into the volcano.
Yeah, definitely. And as we look at Dan Fleeman just moving to the front, a rider who's been working very, very hard with his teammates over the last few days, rode back in the day for Cervelo testing, along with a good mate of mine, Dan Lloyd. He's in the orange and blue, very, very good climber, was a former British national hill climb champion. But another rider that we've not seen so far that we need to mention is Drew Christensen. He was the winner, of course, of the Zwift Academy, and has won himself, by winning that, a contract with the NTT Continental Cycling Team. Weirdly, after a Zwift broadcast the other week before the big lockdown, I kind of bumped into him on the train. How strange is that? And here he is on Zwift racing, so watch out for him. He said his form's good, and he's staying with his brother at the moment in London, so looking very, very good indeed.
One of those hungry riders from the lands down under, that is for sure. We've seen him out on Zwift for a couple of years now, and his form really coming on the last couple of years, coming out of the U23 into the elite categories more, riding now for NTT. Drew Christensen definitely one to be watching out for as he gets stronger and stronger into his career. We are seeing the feather ups popped. Obviously, they're going to be using those feather power ups dropped. A lot of those feather power ups because of the climb into the sprint. We are seeing Jay Scott make his way toward the front, but it's going to be Seldrick there for the BRT team. BRT not showing up too much in the top spots of the racing so far. We'll see if they can grab themselves a couple more points, but this is going to be the first sprint section of the race here. We do see some drafting power-ups being used. That's going to be countermeasure to anybody that might be coming through with any kind of arrow power-ups. Will they be using the arrow power-ups for this first sprint? We'll have to wait and see. It doesn't look like the big bird, the man here from draft, leading things out. Now it's going to be Casadi, and then it's going to be Grandal, though, from BRT trying to grab some points here. Then it is Grandal, though, it looks like, that will take this down. It looks like there was a little bit of backing off there, perhaps. We'll have to wait and see if this sprint is going to offer the points on board, or if we got that incorrect.
No. There's no points on this particular lap. We actually head through. We do one complete lap, Nathan, just to clarify. Sorry if there was a little bit wasn't too clear there. We do one lap. We then hit the points, another lap, hit the points, and the next time round, the third and final lap is the finish line. So they do have around 4 kilometers to go. But I think a couple of sure there, Nathan, themselves, they actually riders that need to score points in a very, very short amount of time. As we see up this little drag here, heading back into the volcano, a lot of people dropping their power-ups there, the featherweight power-ups being a really handy one at this point.
Yeah, we are seeing Dawson here leading things out for Team TFC. It's going to be the Vikings, though, coming through. McQuaid, though, I think leading things out for the red kit there with Team Draft now. Madsen from Fusion. Phillips there set up perfectly. James Phillips with a lot to gain here, still sitting within the top 5 in the series. That's the first little kick. It didn't break things up too much, but if you're anywhere behind 20th or 30th place at this point, it's going to be very difficult to come back. Seeing some arrow power-ups actually being used very early, but no serious kick just yet. Here comes Alex West. Canyon's ECC giving the first dig. 12 watts per kilogram coming from him. Buassen's starting to come through as well. Omdo trying to lead things out. Who is going to take it at the line here? It looks like it's going to be Canyon's ECC perhaps, but no, at the last second, it looks like it's going to be, was it Brandlin? Brandlin with a 15 watt per kilogram kick. And that is the rider I've been wondering about. He's been a little bit outside of that top 5 over and over again. Brandlin winning, one of the most winningest riders actually from Team SZ from the last tour that we had out on Zwift here, but it looks like Brandlin now showing his powers back here at that 3rd place now. As you can see, Doving, though, comes on through. Team Experimental with the top points. Viasen, Brandlin, Larson, Dempster, followed up by West, who led things out, but ends up getting swallowed up by the group.
Yeah, and good to see the race with the overall leader, Levy, scoring 3 points. A very, very good ride there. Very, very consistent. Yasin, remember, he was one of the big favourites for this championships, for the Tour of Watopia. He's currently sitting in 5th position on the general classification with 62 points, so a good bit of scoring. He is now on 72 points, only 5 points now behind the race lead. Just shows, Nathan, how important these sprints are. And we've seen riders now backing off again, just recuperating, because next time through, there'll be more points on the line. Not a lot of time to recover, just a time now to back off, recuperate, maybe take a little bit of a drink before we get this next big spike in power in only 2.5 to 3 minutes time.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see the riders that were able to grab points there, because Brandlin, along with Viasen, both 5th and 6th place there. And so with 62 points and 50 on the line there, Viasen sitting with 62. I think Lionel Viasen actually with the most to gain amongst the group there across the line. Levi is going to have to be watching his back here. Maybe it's going to be all about the final kick across the line for those 35 points. But we still have one more sprint coming up in just a half a lap. So interesting to see how things are playing out here. Again, for that top 6 or so, I would really be looking at them, because Brandlin scored those extra points. Levi there was 75, Phillips 65, Aper 63, and Larson 63, Austin 62, all within about 10 to 13 points or so. So there's a lot of riders here with a lot to gain. And these middle sprints, absolutely loving the way that this is set up with this format, really causing the riders to work for something and not just wait for that scratch race across the line.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this kind of shorter form racing. I mean, I did enjoy the longer form racing on Zwift, but this is very, very exciting. And I think it's still an endurance-based effort, but it's more like riding on the track for a points race. There are a lot of similarities. You need to be able to recuperate, but you need to be able to make these repeated efforts, not just to get the points and sprints at the end, but also to make sure you're in a good position all the time. As you see a little bit of a spike in speed here. It looks like one of the riders from Team Italy, who are mostly actually riders from France, bizarrely enough, but it's Farup who's actually going clear now on the front. A little bit of a tentative move, the first real attack that we've seen so far in this race.
Yeah, and it is going to be the Vikings here trying to make a move. It's an interesting move as we head into the downhill here. Maybe just trying to lead things out, spread things out just a little bit. You know, if he does get a little bit of a gap, it could cause a chase or at least bring the speeds up higher. Brad Bird here now coming from Team Draft. It looks like we call him the Big Bird man. Big Watts coming from him on the front now as Draft takes over with the man out of Canada. Old Berg, though, from Callis now starting to make their way forward. Everybody going to be setting up for the second sprint. We're seeing a couple of power-ups being used. These are going to be the power-ups that people don't actually want in the race here at this point, that they're using to try and just make sure that they don't have to press the space bar or press their power up button as they cross the line, because it's going to be everything probably to hang on at this point. Second time through, 12 points on the line. It looks like it's going to be Austin on the front now. Lionel trying to lead things out perhaps for his man James Phillips, or actually for himself to be set up correctly to not lose a spot. You're halfway back in this pack or further without a solid power up. You're going to find yourself with no points across this next time through the line.
Yeah, definitely, especially up that little bit of a drag. It does tend to stretch out, so positioning absolutely crucial. And then the timing of the sprint as well. And a reminder for 15 seconds, as we can just see a couple of little feather ups being used here, up this little bit of a drag. Remember, it is a slight drag to the line here, but look at the numbers turning red now. McQuad, who with 10 watts a kilogram just coming into this sprint. Remember, 12 points on the line next time through. This is going to be crucial.
Yep, and it's going to be far up here from the Vikings. This is the team that gave a big upset a couple of weeks back in one of the community races. Will they have another upset here? Not too high up on any of the standings at this point. They got plenty of the game, but it looks like it's going to be Ryan Larson, perhaps. Berg now coming to the front from Callis team. I did see Larson looking to try and set up. I think Indoor Special are looking for quite a few more points than they grabbed the first time through this line, but it's Apers from BZR leading things out, it looks like, with a solid power up. Apers, Olsen coming through as well. 13 watts per kilogram there coming from Olsen. Will he be able to take it to the line, though? Apers trying to hold on. Levi, though, comes through. Jonathan Levi at the last moment, showing why he's down in the yellow jersey. KRT, the OG team, making it happen, it looks like. We'll have to wait for the official here as it comes through. And yes, it was Levi. Is he extending his lead at this point? We'll have to wait and see. But Brandon, again, in a top 2 position there, third on the last one. So Brandon scoring a solid 18 points through the 2 sprints. Brandon really starting to raise himself up in the overall standings. Apers, Mail, West, Dempster, Viasen, Wetterhall, Larson, followed up by Almdal from Callis with that 1 point.
Well, what an absolutely superb sprint as we see Dan Fleeman on the front, just keeping this pace very, very high. Of course, they've got a rider who's well up there. They've had 2 riders who finished in the top 10 twice. They're looking after Ryan Larson. He's their big sprinter. He was 9th in the jungle and 2nd in race number 1. But that was a good move. Levi now. Well, look, that is the rider points on the night so far. Brandon with 18, Levi with 15, and then Vujasin with 14. So not too much between them at all. And only 3.2 kilometers to go before the Tour of Watopia is decided. This is going to be a fascinating sprint. And Nathan, their legs now are going to be full of lactic acid as well. They're going to have to try and flush that out somehow.
Yeah, and with only 3 points there, Levi, this might be a tactical situation for Levi. Do you risk anything whatsoever? Really, I think he needs to be looking for a top 5. But in these races, though, there's so many riders that are so strong. You think, oh, it just needs to be a top 5. He's a really strong rider. If you time things just a little bit off in a Zwift race, you can find yourself suddenly overtaken by an entire pack of hungry piranhas, it seems like, just eaten up and gone off the back, or at least way outside. We're talking hundredths of a second between the kind of quality that we have in this race here. We do have a little bit of an invisibility power up, though, being used by a TFC rider going off the front there for a minute. Looks like it's Baverstock there trying to make something happen. Closed down immediately, though, by Aaron Coles from the Indoor Specialist. But Levi, it is going to be all about making sure he's within the top 5 to top 10 to hold on to those points that he needs to be to win this overall here. But it's still crucial to make sure the placing is and the timing is absolutely right for him.
Yeah, and of course you've got to think about has he got a power up? As we just see Dan I've been really impressed with Dan. He's a guy that I've raced on the open race. He's kind of in his late 30s now, but he's getting stronger and stronger and has really adapted well to this sort of racing. And as you would expect he would, because he's a very, very good hill climber. 6.7 watts a kilo, trying to string things out, trying to make it as hard as he can. I would imagine he's trying to set up Holden coming up, of course, the American Zwift national champion, by really stretching them out and forcing the other teams onto the back foot. This is a good move by Fleeman at the moment, 370 watts, but it looks as if he is going to be brought back.
Interesting situation here from Indoor Specialist now. As we're looking through here, Holden would be the rider I'd be usually looking for, but we've got one of those situations where there were 2 GC riders for Indoor Specialists that could take over that top spot on the team. And I do believe that they will be working for Ryan Larson here at this point with 63 points. Toward the front, was obviously trying to push the pace. Now we do see one of the Indoor Specialists making his way to the front. It looks like that is going to be Dan Fleeman again. He is most definitely the workhorse, actually. Merkin here from BZR, though, watch out for him. The upset in the race last time when we were on the jungle circuit, but Fleeman continues on pushing that pace, keeping the speed as high as he possibly can before we head into this sprint. But it's an attack here from Adaman. Fusion, they know he knows he does not have an arrow power up, and because of that, he uses the invisibility to get a gap. But with the kind of wattages they're about to throw down, he's going to have to hold this 10 plus for quite a long time.
Yeah, that's going to be at least 45 seconds to hold this up. 50, of course, we're coming into the last kind of 600 meters. Look at that, 713 watts from Jesper Atterman. It's a good gap here. This is absolutely fantastic. Coming into the last few hundred meters. Has Atterman done enough? The road will slightly flatten as we're heading towards the finish. Take it away, Nathan.
193 beats per minute. He's got a 3-second gap here at this point, but the speeds are going to pick up in just a moment here. What a haul here. Team SZ with Ollie Jones on his wheel. Ollie Jones, he's got the special power up. He has the arrow here. 9 watts per kilogram. I do not believe we've seen the actual kick from Ollie, or have we? It may be a lead out here, but Gavin Dempster, will Dempster take it to the line? We've seen him win here before. I think it's his kind of course, but he has to hold on. Here comes Brandlin, though, showing why he's the puncher on the day. Samuel Brandlin taking down the sprint, and does that put him in the top spot? Where was Levi? We'll have to wait for the results sheet here to see how it played out, but what a sprint there from Samuel Brandlin at the last second coming across the line.
Well, we wondered when Brandlin was going to deliver. There is the confirmation. Takes it by a third of a second. Larson, great riding by the two riders from Innovation there. Larson and Cormier in second. But where is the race leader? Jonathan Levy, there he is, 9th position. We're going to have to leave it to the mathematicians to work this out. But one thing's for sure, that was an amazing race. And it's gone down to the wire. But Brandlin, clearly back to his best. What a wonderfully timed sprint that was.
Yeah, Brandlin being a lighter rider who's got a solid kick. On the flatter courses, a lot of times he can't come through with just the pure wattage. But because of that 2-tier kick, he is a very light rider and has a huge spin over. So Brandlin, 35 points received. Brian Larson, we said he'd be the man that we were leading out for. He was ahead the top spot. I think Holden maybe not even trying to steal any points from Ryan, perhaps. Grabs that 3rd spot there. Dempster tried to lead it out on through. He was sitting in 1st place with like 50 meters to go, but they overtook him. Coming to the line. Gardner, IS indoor specialist, really taking over some top spots here, actually. Solid results for them on this last course. Lion of the Austin, Matthias Lundquist coming through, and then Michael Avers from BZR. Jonathan Levi, as you said, just holding off for those 17, but that's a pretty big point difference between that 35 to 17. We'll have to see he's got enough on the day, followed by Vidar Mayo from Callis there for that 16 points.
Yeah, well, as we started the day, Levy, we know, had 75 points and Brandlin had 50, so he had a 25-point buffer. I'm not going to gamble and trying to tell you what the final result's going to be, because there it is. 53
on the day, individual points here for Brand. Look at that's a lot of points on the day. Oh my goodness, 53 points. He was sitting at 50 prior to the race here today. Levi grabs 32. This is so close, actually, with Larson there with 39. I think it's just outside of grabs here, perhaps, for anybody to take over that top spot. Brandlin may be the only one that was able to make it happen, perhaps. We're going to have to wait for the final up there, but it looks like top 10 there, all the way down to Gardner for indoor specialist with 21 points. So many points on the line. It's what makes the tactics so incredibly interesting today.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be very, very tight. Well, there's the individual points on the rest of them. I think another rider we need to consider. It's going to be very, very close. We're just leaving it down to our mathematicians, statisticians at headquarters to work it out. But Larson started on 63 points. He was 13 points ahead of Brandlin, so he's going to be ahead of Brandlin on the day, I think, on the final classification. As we look at the top 10 there, the top 20: West, Merkin, Omdahl, Hug, Locke, Davies, Wigforce, Rubino, and Coles scoring the final points. There are actually points to the top 25. But this has been a fascinating series. 3 races, and with these intermediate sprints and King of the Mountain Swines all adding up for the general classification, I think we've got ourselves an absolutely winning formula, Nathan, in terms of the way to move forward these sorts of races. It is absolutely fascinating and makes them aggressive all the way through.
Yeah, now that we do have gone through all of our results sheets here, let's go ahead and hold back over to OJ as we look forward to the women's race for the doubleheader today.
Fascinating stuff there. What a race. Loved watching that. Really, really enjoyed it. And it was just great to see the timing. And that little cheeky ghost drop from Ataman as well. The problem is you go for it and then you see, and then there's orange numbers all over the place, double figures. You just think, yep, my glutes are not as big as my eyes. Fabulous, fabulous stuff. We'll come back to all those results a little bit later on, find out who took home that yellow jersey from the men's race. But now let's get straight into the women's race. I did say it was a double header. Make sure you hydrate yourself because it's time to start with the women's race. And what we need to do, though, first is go back to Matt Stevens, who has some news, but a change to the standings after a performance verification in the last race. Matt, it's over to you.
OJ, we know that the results that are displayed at the end of each of our invitational Pro-Am races are provisional and subject to performance verification. What we learned today is that, unfortunately, Mary Wilkinson's performance could not be verified, and so her win from the Stage 3 race has been nullified. Mary is a previous Zwift Academy finalist, so we know just how talented she is as an athlete, but Zwift racing is obviously dependent on the hardware that these riders are using, and the Performance Verification Board must ensure that there is no unfair advantage being gained from that hardware. Now, on this occasion, Mary's trainer data was not consistent with the additional performance data that she supplied to the Performance Verification Board, including an outdoor test and a dual power source. Any number of things could have caused this, and we aren't entirely sure, but it's possible her trainer may have been miscalibrated. So, unfortunately, it has led to her result being nullified, and that means that the yellow jersey now passes to Cecilia Hansen of Team Heino.
That was that performance verification for you. Let's just look at this quickly. This is the overall result of the Tour of Watopia. Jonathan Levi takes that yellow jersey. 10 points in the end was his gap over James Phillips and Michael Appers from BZR in third. Fabulous racing. Jonathan Levi, he had that amazing first stage performance, which really set it up for him. Everyone was on him, but he takes home that yellow jerseys on offer. Time now for the women's races. It'd be good to see some of them warming up right now. They're all around the planet in their own social isolations. They are warming up. I think we can see a couple of the feeds. Let's just see if we can see some of the riders warming up. I don't think we can. Never mind. Let us find out what my remote co-host, Hannah Walker, thinks of what is going to happen, what is going to unfold over this next race, over the next 10 minutes or so.
We've seen two very different profiles for races 1 and 2 for the women. Race 1 on Watopia Flat, race 2 on Volcano Climb, and it affected the race, as you would imagine. Race 1 was a bunch sprint, race 2 was completely decimated in that bunch. Now I think tonight's stage will be almost a happy medium of both those stages, and we will see maybe a reduced bunch sprint. For me, a rider who showed great form in those races is the yellow jersey leader, Cecilia Hansen. Very consistent in both races. She has a 4-point buffer over Lou Bates. Now, how is Lou Bates going to be able to play this one? Although it's an individual competition, those riders can get their team behind, help them score as many points in the intermediate sprints as possible, but also into the finish line points as well. So what does that tell us about the contenders going into stage 3 and the final stage? Well, it shows that they're very versatile. They can adapt to any situation, whether that be terrain, profile, or style of racing. So for me, the yellow jersey wearer, showing her consistency and form. I do think she will do the double tonight and take the stage and then go on to take the overall yellow jersey. Through that experience, the strength and power that she has, knowing when to use the power-ups at the perfect time as well, is going to all play a big factor in tonight's finale. It's still very, very close. It's all to play for, but we'll soon find out how it's going to play out.
Thank you, Hannah. Right then, we are just T-minus 1 minute away from the next rest. Let's take a look at what we've got coming up for you. I believe we can see that now. We can see this is the race format, 2 laps. You've got 21.4 kilometers in total. Lap arch points, top 10 places, 12-1. And then on the finish line, the top 25 places, 35-1. It is going to be a fabulous race. We do, I believe, have time for the teams. These are the teams. Canyon ZCC, they'll be animated. Heino as well. Keep an eye out for Heino and for Canyon SRAM. And then the riders to watch. As always, these are the riders. Cecilia Hansen now wearing that yellow jersey. Tanya Irath is going to be monstrous here, and Helen McKay from Turbo as well. And watch out for the power-ups. These are going to be all important on such a flat course as we go round the volcano. All the usual stuff there. But we're almost bang on ready for this race. So I think we should get straight into it. The second of our double header. Let's hand over to our commentators. As always, it's Matt Stevens, but first it is Go Guerra to get us going.
And thank you so much, OJ. Amazing pre-show. Well, a little intermission, actually. Not pre-show. After then got Matt, obviously, alongside me again. We're out onto the course here. with the stage at number 5 of the women's tour, Watopia. And there's a lot on the line here between these women. And I think that prediction coming from Hannah was absolutely spot on. I think Cecilia is the one to watch out for in a sprint situation like this today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a different sort of circuit than the one we saw previously. I think we can't always look towards the men's race to kind of compare what's going on, but in terms of just the sort of riders here, the depth and strength of the teams, I think it's going to be difficult for anybody to break away unless they're particularly strong. So I'm predicting, although it's probably going to be the curse of the commentator now, that we could see a big bunch sprint, but I think it will suit Hansen, the race leader at the moment, or the overall leader. She is wearing, of course, the yellow jersey. And just a reminder of the point situation. We've got a great team, have the team leading it at the moment, the Hino Racing team. Cecilia Hansen leads with 74 points. She's in front of Lou Bates, of course, who won last week on the whole lot of lava circuit. Of course, the race did break up a little bit of a more hillier circuit. And then we've got Team Turbo's Olivia Barrel in third place at 63 points. So very much like the men's classification. With the sheer amount of points on offer, Nathan, today, 59 points maximum that somebody could earn, this whole thing could change. So, strange things have happened in racing on Zwift. We've said we think that courses are going to go one way and they've gone completely the other. But what is for sure, this is going to be very, very exciting indeed. They've got one lap of the circuit and then they will hit the first sprint of the day.
That's a really great call out actually there with Olivia Barrel actually as well. Lou Bates, a rider too, who has been a little bit quieter on the circuits and suddenly out of nowhere last week had an amazing result. So we'll see if the 3R rider there with 70 points right now is able to take down that top spot for Cecilia Hansen. Cecilia Hansen here, there may be a little bit of upset in the sprints recently, has not been quite as dominant as she has in the past. So we'll have to see perhaps a breakaway stations for any peloton of women. They're going to have to be watching out for a breakaway as Hino's tried to set it up over and over again in each stage. They've made some moves. They've got some gaps actually at times, but brought a couple of too many teams along with them, it looked like, and so backed it on off. Be watching out for Leah Thorvaldsen as well. She's been a major factor for Team Turbo with setting up their sprints. We're looking for Canyon ZCC, though. Always a strong team, obviously. Claudia Berry there coming out of Colorado, hammering away, as you can see, the live shots there. McKay, though, from a Turbo here, making the way to the front. Turbo, it looks like in the dark purple and black and a little bit of orange on their kit there, starting to make the way to the front, but there's Velocity Cycling now as well in the orange kit. Hubach from Hino as we look through, and Purcell from AHDR.
Indeed, that's a good shout out for talking about Leah Thorvaldsen. She's one of 6 riders who's managed to score, who's actually finished in the top 10 on 2 occasions. And we've had teams that have been exceptionally dominant as well. Canyon ZCC, Hino Racing Team, unsurprisingly, a Revolution Racing, Turbo, and 2020. They're the only teams that have actually got riders in the top 10. A lot of those doubling up. So there are some teams that are pretty dominant. But as we can see, just rolling through, a lot of the riders now just sitting in the wheels. Still some big numbers here. Watch out as well for Ella Harris from Canyon SRAM. She's a pro out on the road. She's the winner of the Zwift Academy. She won the Zwift Academy in 2019, has been rewarded with a pro contract, and boy, has she hit the ground running. An absolute sensation. Sorry, this is her second year. She won in 2018. This is her second year, should I say, riding for Canyon SRAM. She's the current under-23 New Zealand time trial champion and was second in the senior road race championships. And obviously, none of these riders can ride outdoors, so transferring that kind of aggression, that kind of frustration into Zwift, she could be one of the riders who features today, especially with that little kick up to the line.
Yeah, and speaking of pro teams, also joining in is going to be Team 2020 out here today. I saw Lubke out there, looked like, as well as Paulus. Shayna Paulus is out here hammering away, it looks like. So plenty of talent out here today from the in real life UCI teams here. See, Nelson is also there from 2020. It looks like the really stacked field actually showing up for 2020 out here today. So we also obviously have Valkyr out here as well. So pro teams showing up, maybe be able to throw down some real power here. I think maybe a renewed focus as well on the world of Zwift racing here with what's happening in the world right now. So everybody with the social distancing and isolating here now getting into their pain caves. I have a feeling we may see a little extra watt bombs here coming from the pro teams.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely worth mentioning the Valcar Travel and Service team. Good to see that they're fielding 5 riders here, and they've got some real class, exceptional riders. Watch out for Ilaria Sanguinetti, a very, very good sprinter out on the open road as we look at Neelan. just moving up Viking Island. A very, very good rider with a bit of punch as well. Just trying to spot where the yellow jersey of the race leader is, or the overall leader is. Remember, it's on the shoulders of Cecilia Hansen at the moment from Heino. As we look at the face of Jen Real, that is her real face indeed, out of the saddle, looking pretty comfortable, still pushing out a fair bit of power, 325 watts here for a very, very light rider. That just shows already how deep these riders are having to go just to stay in, and a raft of power-ups being used as we enter into the center of the volcano.
Yeah, Team Fearless, they've kind of always played second fiddle lately. We'll see if they can make something happen out here today. It'd be really exciting to see Team Fearless show up on the day and grab the results that they've been looking for. It does look like Polly Mason, along with Jennifer Reel, is making this lead, maybe deciding factors. I have a feeling if there were a race that could see a split here, it would be the women's race here through this two-tier, if they do really give a little bit of gas coming through here. But it looks like they're backing off. And obviously, without the sprint on this through this section here, we'll have to see what ends up playing out. I think this isn't going to be the section they're looking to try and break away. I think it's just going to be a roll through, waiting for the right power-ups, and looking toward the second time through this sprint banner to try and grab some points.
And there we go. Just the first time I actually saw a great little shot there of the lap marker on the right-hand side showing 3 laps to go. And as you just said, Nathan, next time through, the riders will get that point on the line. 12 points, remember, for the top 10. 12 points for first place. That's 10 points for second, then 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As Ella Harris now moves to the front, and we look at the picture-in-picture. These really are great. I'm enjoying these picture-in-pictures of Corinne Fox on the inside. But all together now, I think riders just getting a feel for this circuit. But of course, as you know, Nathan, many of these riders will know this circuit like the back of their hand. It is the reverse actual circuit of the volcano. There's 2 races they have on the volcano loop. This is the reverse one.
Yeah, it's great to see Corinne Fox riding for BRT. She was actually a stand-in last year at the UK National Championships, and pretty awesome to see that she had an amazing result there, and then ended up being picked up by one of the community teams, Bolt Racing Team, and now racing here in the Tour Watopia. Very cool to see her with those live shots there from her pain cave here. But it looks like we're looking at Rachel Elliott. Who doesn't know Rachel Elliott from the Zwift racing community here? Currently 287 watts, and she's going to be a workhorse out here for the KRT team. We'll see if she can grab some results, though, as well. You know, I would not expect Rachel Elliott in a sprint situation, but she's proven me wrong recently in some of the community races. So we'll have to wait and see what she's able to pull off. She's got 15 points. It looks like that she was able to grab in race number 2. So not very high up in the leaderboards. Currently sitting in 13th place. We'll see if she can grab something, though, on the day here. For the KRT team, she is the highest ranked rider, though. So definitely watch out for her to try and show up. We'll see if they can put some work in for Rachel to grab some points to the sprint section.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, this isn't, although it is a flattish circle, that little kick into the line, if a team wants to make it particularly hard from a long way out, it doesn't end up being a pure punches, a full-on sprint finale. It can suit the riders that like to go long, that can time. We look at the figure of Claudia Baring there on the left-hand side, that a feather power-up for this sprint could be slightly more advantageous, perhaps, than an aero power-up.
I'd have to agree with that. It all depends on the way that the sprint works out. You know, if they come in with a huge amount of speed, no amount of weight reduction is really going to make you come through, you know, if there's an aero power-up situation. But if there is any kind of a smaller group, you know, if the group is building so much speed, you're sitting in the middle of it and you're getting carried along by that group, aero power-up coming through with high amounts of speed is almost always going to win out. But if it's all about a quick kick, if they kind of hold hands and watch each other, if you're in a situation where the pack breaks up or it gets into a straight line, echelons out a little bit more, there is a reality that feather power will be able to get you the meters that are needed to try and get away. And that quick speed boost, if everybody starts looking at each other and plays a little bit too many games with the speed.
Yeah, and it was interesting in the men's race. We saw that invisibility. That is by power up. When you see the ghost icon being dropped above the rider, that means the other riders in game cannot see that rider disappear up the road. So they actually are invisible for 10 seconds. And we've seen riders recently win events on Zwift by wisely using that power up, by just completely using the element of surprise, opening up 2 or 3 seconds and holding it into the line. As we get our first look at Cecilia Hansen in that yellow jersey, cruising along, looking very comfortable at the moment at around 220 watts. She's going to be pretty happy just flicking the pedals around, making sure she's hydrated, making sure she gets herself prepared for this first sprint, which is coming up very, very shortly now.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting here. A lot of pressure is going to be on Cecilia at this point, making sure she's in the right spot. This is not over by any means whatsoever. She only is leading by 4 points at this point in the race here, in this point in the series here. So be watching out for Lee Bates. They'll be following her wheel. They're going to definitely be marking each other with that 74 and 70 points. But if they do mark each other too much, we could see somebody slip away. So looking for the points out here today. Ella Harris now moving to the front there. It looks like Canyon Tram Racing, but it's going to be Hubach there looking to lead things out for Heino here up there as well. Lodval, now, it looks like Lodval now from Team SC also toward the front. That's the initial kick there that they have through the 2-tier. Now it's going to be about finding the right position and that second one to the line. Dunkelm is it to the line, coming to the front though, I believe. For Vision now, up into that 5 watts per kilogram. Hamilton, Whitelaw coming through. Lots of drafting power-ups though, it looks like here. Looking to grab a wheel and come through at the last moment. Bates now, second overall, 10 watts per kilogram. Vicky Whitelaw. Hanson's got 12 though here, coming through. And as you said, the feather power-up, it looks to be deciding things here, but it's going to be Vicky Whitelaw taking it from her teammate, but no, Bates at the last second, right at the line. Was it Lou Bates here? That was so close. Vanderplas was there as well. 2 3R riders, actually. Wow, 3R out of nowhere, Matt, is just turning things on.
Well, that was absolutely amazing. It's Van der Plas that took maximum points, Whitelaw with second, Cecilia Hansen in third there, and Bates was actually in fifth, but that was a great ride. So looking at that, Hansen has actually increased her lead on the riders that are close to her. But again, very, very interesting to see the sort of power-ups that were used there. But still, we only now have like just about 3.5 kilometers before they hit that sprint again. Remember, they had a 2-kilometer run into the circuit, so not a lot of time to recover. And now Tenya Erath goes off the front. Very, very strong rider indeed. Another former winner of the Zwift Academy from Germany. Great track rider too. And the bunch really strung out a couple of riders. It's a couple of splits here. Bits.
This is it. This is a moment here, Matt. You're 100% correct here. I think this is what these riders should be looking for to try and break things apart, to really solidify themselves. Team Fearless has made this split. 3R has made the split as well. It looks like Turbo is in here, all the big hitters, and 2020 with Paulus trying to make way to the front, knowing that they have to shut this down. It looks like it's going to be shut down, but I think some of the matches they wanted to reserve are going to be used up because of this close that they had to make.
Yeah, that's at least got 15 or 20 riders. Hubach is safely there. Whitelaw is also there. But the group just behind are only a few seconds back. It looks like they are going to get back into contact. But as you said, at what cost? How much are those riders having to invest just to get themselves back on terms? But this is great. When we first saw Zwift racing a couple of years ago, when there was a split, generally that was it. But what we're seeing now, there's so much strength in talent that riders have the ability, if they don't leave it too long, to get back in contacts, making this racing so much more open. As we see Ella Harris again hit the front.
Yeah, Ella Harris, it looks like, was trying to drive the pace there a little bit there for Canyon Tram Racing, but it looks like it's going to be shut right on down. I thought for sure that was going to go. It does look like they were able to drop a few riders, though. There is a chase group behind containing, it looks like about 9, maybe 10 riders. Vikings off the back, team draft. I do see KRT trying to stay involved there. Is Rachel Elliott off the back there? No, it's actually going to be Prinz that is there. So I believe Rachel has made the main group here. But for the main group, it looks like about 43 riders, I believe, 43, 44 riders that are able to. So it's a large group here. It's going to be a big ask to bring this back if they keep the pace high. It looks like they may be backing off a little bit, waiting for that second sprint. Too much work at this point. There's not going to be a lot of motivation with how many riders that have made the group to make sure that this other group does not get back. And the reality is this other group chasing, they're going to have to burn a couple extra matches here. So nobody's going to be too worried about that. They're mainly going to be thinking about the next sprint coming up with 12 points on the line.
Yeah, and I think looking at the way we've seen races on this circuit, I would imagine some of them watching the men's race as well feed. You know, do you really want to invest in really driving hard on the front when you know that invariably it's going to come back together? And I think that's what we saw. The group was a little bit too big to be cohesive. The gap wasn't big enough. And also there wasn't enough real belief that was going to stay clear. So hence they just backed off a little bit, quite sensibly, I think. And we've got a bigger group now. But it won't be long before we head through to the sprint once more. Remember, these laps only 4.1 kilometers long. So not a lot of time to flush those toxins out at all. But the yellow jersey safely ensconced midway through the pack.
Exactly. Great point there. The reality is that a lot of these riders who are just starting to recover, and the riders that really push the pace, the riders who really demolish that sprint, they're going to have a little extra time because they didn't have to close anything down. They were able to kind of rest toward the front. If they weren't pushing the pace too much, if they weren't trying to make the break happen any longer, they have a little bit extra time to flush out the legs and get ready for this next sprint. I think this next time through, we are going to see a little bit more of a split because these points on the line are going to drive these ladies to really compete for them, really try everything to get those extra points, and that is going to split this pack again. That's my prediction. We're going to end up with probably about, I would say, 10, maybe 15 riders of this pack of 40.
Yeah, I definitely think so. If we saw it happen on lap one, league set in. This is only an event that's only 17 Ks, but very, very intense indeed. Very short but exciting racing. And I think with the addition of these hotspot sprints, they really do spice things up a little bit and make it the riders really have to measure their efforts as we see the sprint coming up very, very shortly. Lots of power ups being dropped as they head through. Remember, 12 points on the line.
Yeah, and is Dunkholm now leading things out for Vision? Is she working for anybody, just setting herself up well? It looks like it's just a setup for Vision here for the rider herself, because there are no Vision kits that I can see too far behind here at this point. A couple more powers being thrown down. It does look like it's going to be SZ, Team Sweden, making her way to the front. Oh, but no, it looks like it's going to be Cecilia Hansen, the current series leader, making her way to the front. Vicky Whitelaw, it looks like it's a repeat of the last lap here. Heino on the front, but Hubach this time through. Louise Hubach with the feather power up, distancing herself. Whitelaw holding on. Hansen's right there. 1, 2, 3, Heino across the line, showing why they are the dominant team in the world of Zwift racing. Falk comes on through, though. The split could be happening. Will we see a counter? Tanya Arith, I think, doing exactly that, keeping the pace high. The split is there, but they have to have continuance. They cannot back off at this point. Bates is coming through. It looks like lots of speed still, but the group, they're within striking distance to quickly bring this back.
Well, that was a wonderful win there by Hubach. As you say, in the red and black, and of course the yellow. Well, there we go. That's the rider point. The rider points that have been amassed so far tonight. Whitelaw is the best so far with 20, then Hubach with 17, and the race leader, or the series leader, Hansen in third with 16 points. A good total for her, but there's definitely a few more riders off the back. It hasn't maybe fractured quite as much, but it's forcing riders to chase here, Nathan.
Yeah, and we do see a little bit of a shout out there. Daniela Straight, 59 points, fourth place overall coming in. And Vicky Whitelaw with 50 there coming in as well. Vicky really bumping herself up in the overall here at this point. But now we're looking at Ella Harris's numbers there. Talking about recovery. Look at the power, but look at the heart rate. 186 beats per minute, and it's going up. It's not coming down. It's actually going up. I think that at this point, it's a furnace in every one of these pain caves at this point. The heat is on, and I think coming with only about a half a lap to go in a moment here, they're going to be trying to recover. These are moments, though, of truth. Somebody could give it a go if they're not a sprinter and try and get away with how high the efforts have been so far.
Yeah, definitely. You can just see Sanguinetti and Pollicini from the Valcar Travel and Service team. They're doing very, very well. Again, these riders having to adapt to racing on Zwift, and they've done it very, very well indeed. Always at or near the head of affairs, willing to press on. As we see, you can just see Hansen just in the center of the screen. She's in that yellow jersey with that Z on her back. Only 3.6 kilometers to go. It won't be long before we head out again, and it's the final time through. But this is a wonderful race so far. I think we've been reduced maybe now to maybe 25, 30 riders in this front group now.
Yeah, that last time through the sprint definitely broke things apart, and it looks like they are completely out of sight of any chasers at this point. So some of the chase groups just entering the volcano as they're about to leave. Belforth out the front here, though. SZ taking a risk, it looks like, as they have a little bit of a kick uphill here. Maybe going to cause a chase here from some of the other riders trying to soften up the legs. Belforth there. It looks like the rider who is so incredibly aggressive to the top of this volcano the last time we were on it in the Tour Watopia for the women. And now backing off. Definitely somebody I think who likes to climb. Is every time it goes uphill, she kicks into that 7 or so watts per kilogram. Look at Emma up and out of the saddle. The 187 beats per minute, 300 watts here momentarily. So Emma, very aggressive rider all the time. Team SC trying to give it a little bit of kick. Doesn't look like it's going much of anywhere there, but definitely putting the work in on the day.
Yeah, she certainly is. She was turning a lower cadence there, really putting a lot of torque through the crank arms on the bike, really leaning But again, when there's parts of the course that suit you, why not trying to shake it up, especially if you've managed to infiltrate this front move? It can be so frustrating. You get in the front move, you use a lot of energy to get there, only for the group behind to come back again. So I think one or two riders now thinking, okay, I've got in this front group, why not let's make it work? Spend a little bit of time on the front just to ensure that the sprint and the win goes from one of these riders. And I think that is going to be the case as Pollicini hits the front. Nathan, it's a big gap to the group behind. The winner is going to come from this pack at the front.
Yeah, and actually interesting power up there, Bear. It looks like they're from Railcar Travel now in service. A little bit of a feather power up, maybe a little bit of mistake there. One of the Canadian Sham racers, I think, also using a feather power up. That was a very early use.
Yeah, I mean, that they haven't got any opportunities to get any more power-ups. I mean, just as a reminder for watching, power-ups is the gamification side of things when you can use, but you can press the space bar on your laptop, or there is another device that you can use on your app to basically give you a bit of a bonus. Now, I think that was a mistake because there's no opportunity for these riders to get any more power-ups. They get them only when they pass through a sprint or a finish arch. Interesting use of power-ups here as we head in towards, it's only got 877 meters. This is where the road kicks up now. So unsurprisingly, riders using the feather power-ups, but perhaps a little bit too early.
Yeah, now we are seeing Heino make their way to the front. They've been extremely dominant every lap here, but can they pull off the win here? We're into the final stage, final last meters here of the Tour Watopia here now. Ella Harris to the front. Looks like an arrow power up there actually being used by the Valcar Travel Service rider here now to the front end of the pack. Will she be able to distance herself? It's going to be, it looks like Sanguinetti here now with a little bit of a gap, but it's not enough. There's still a draft on her wheel here. On her wheel will be Ella Harris, 6.8 watts per kilogram. Vicky Whitelaw goes. Will Ella Harris be able to respond? 10 watts per kilogram. McKay from Team Turbo coming on through. We said watch out for her. Turbo may be able to upset, it looks like, but no, it's Cecilia Hansen, the current series leader, coming through, trying to put her dominance, but it's going to be Barrow. Barrow comes through. Huge upset there from Olivia Barrow. Team Turbo, the Canadian, it looks like took it at the line. We'll wait for the official result, but Olivia Barrow, what a move there from Team Turbo. We said Turbo, watch out for them for an upset in the sprint, and I believe the Canadian made it happen there. What a kick, Matt.
Well, that was an amazing late kick. It looked like but it was the Canadian. She has been so consistent so far. Second in the first race.
Zero? That's a zero. There's no time difference. You see this, Matt?
I don't think I've ever seen that unless we go. But that literally was a photo finish. But they've given the win to Olivia Barrow. That's 3 times she's finished in the top 10. In fact, she's been 3 times in the top 8. Wonderful win. But I think with that point score, the dominating performance by Team Heino, it looks like Hansen has won the title. But what a thrilling finale that was.
Yeah, and we do have the finish line points here. This was what they got across the line, and that's 35 points. Going to Olivia with that final little kick, literally not even a tire length, I think. Cecilia Hansen then followed up by straight Daniela. Shout out to Daniela and Team Revo coming through for 3rd place. Probably going to bump herself up from the stands, actually. Vicky Whitelaw with dominant force out there today as well. I think she's going to find a whole lot of points on the standings for the overall as well. Lou Bates still holding on for 5th. Looks like Jessica Edkis for SZ. Lewis Hubach then. Tanya Arith showing up for Canyon Tram Racing. It will be Emma Belfort, one of the more aggressive riders for Team SZ in 9th, and Kristen Falk for 10th.
Well, again, another breathless race. I mean, I think the key to this particular race, as opposed to the other ones, was the lack of recovery time in between the sprints. As we look at the individual points on the night, Hansen tying with Olivia Barrow, 46 points each.
It's picture perfect actually there because of how it came to the line with the timing there, giving it to Olivia though. But it looks like Cecilia with those sprint points in immediate does take down the night. It will be Vicky Whitelaw and then Hubach. Look at Heino domination in the top 4. Tied though with straight Daniela. Good to see Team Revo again. Lou Bates there coming through for 27. Emma Belfort there being aggressive on the night with 23. Jessica Edquist. Helen McKay there, Team Turbo for 9th, tied with Tanya Arath.
Yeah, it looks like Barrel may actually move above Bates on the general classification. I don't think there's any doubt about who's going to win this overall. Hansen started off the day with a 4-point advantage over the over the British rider Lou Bates. And although the Olivia won on the night, not enough to bring things back. But absolutely, I mean, that was the thing. We knew that because the way the points are weighted, the riders had to be aggressive all night long. And there we go. That's the rest of the individual points on the night, down to the top 20. Falk, Neal and Sanguinetti. Ella Harris, of course, just dropped away slightly after that long lead out. But no, I think that the winner should be confirmed very, very shortly, subject, of course, to confirmation, Nathan. But just from our perspective, it's been an absolutely wonderful tour of Watopia. The racing's been scintillating, and of course, the group rides back out in the week as well have been amazing. It's been a wonderful tour of Watopia this year, mate.
Yeah, and I am seeing a lot of comments and chats, a lot of thank yous, and I think there's a lot of, obviously everybody's social distancing in isolation right now with what's happening in the world, and it's pretty awesome to have this series in order to get everybody together, do something that's active, and connect in this virtual world that we're able to do so on the racing, on the Tour of Watopia, as well as the Tour of Watopia rides and races that everybody can do for themselves. Make sure to jump on in those as well. But I just think that it's just such a great thing to have now at this time where everybody's able to connect, and definitely want to big shout out to chat as everybody's saying more of this. I can see that, and I got to put those sentiments out there as well as we all bunker up a little bit for the couple of months here.
Yeah, I mean, Zwift has been around for kind of 4 or 5 years now. It's all been there, and it's just going to help people at the moment, and help people keep fit, help people keep active. But as you said, I think the key word there for me, Nathan, was connecting a community. And when I'm out riding on Zwift in the week, and I do it a lot now, I'm actually getting weirdly quite fit, which is quite strange. But it's the amount of international flags out on the road in all the different worlds on Zwift. Watopia, I think, is a lot of people's favorite. There's, kilometer after kilometer of wonderful, varied roads to ride on. I mean, look at that. You got a volcano there, mountain in the distance. It's a lot of fun, but it does bring people together in these difficult times.
100%. Almost 25,000 people, I think I saw as the top number today. Absolutely amazing, and cool to see everybody that is out there riding today. Let's go back on over to OJ in his pain cave for some post-race analysis and wrapping up the series.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Just to echo exactly what Matt and Nathan were putting so brilliantly there, it is amazing to bring this community together, especially during this tour of Watopia. And if we're all social distancing and we're in isolation, what a way to do it. Imagine if we haven't done that and we were just on old school turbo trainers staring at the wall and crying into the wind. But let's take a look at the final GCs. I do believe we have those now to see how the women's tour of Watopia finally shaped up. We can see the final points. I believe they'll be coming in just a second. If they don't, we'll take a second. Hopefully they'll appear in just a second. Stage 5, what you've just watched there, which is that volcano route. You probably have ridden it before, especially when you come round to that sprint point. I did in a race about a week ago, and you know what's coming. You know you've got that climb up, take you to the finish climb and the sprint as well. And you see it looming. You know it's coming at you. Race that. It will be live in just a few hours. You can check out zwift.com/TOW ride to find out what is happening there. The event schedule, as always, will be on the companion app. If you want to take me on, you can do. Right, let's take a look. Here we go. Here's the men's series points. We'll look at those first. Just to confirm that Jonathan Levi of KRT has taken the overall win by just 4 points in the end. They pushed him hard. Samuel Branland right there on his wheel at the end, and Ryan Larson took the third spot. And everyone's favourite rider, Lionel Vuhassin, and his duck from Kenyan ZCC came in fourth. Fabulous racing there, and I believe we can have the women's GC in a second. We have them now. They'll be with us. The women's... here they are. They come in. And there it is. Cecilia Hansen absolutely deserves it. Of the Hino team, takes that yellow jersey. 120 points. Olivia Barril of Team Turbo, 11 back. And Lou Bates of R3R on 97 points, rounds out the top 3 of the women's tour of Watopia. A fabulous 3-race series for both the women and the men. So congratulations to our first GC competition. Those yellow jerseys are out there for both Levi and Cecilia Hansen as well. Make sure you ride this route. Make sure over the coming weeks and months, make sure you get on there, take on the race. As I said, Stage 5 will be live in just a matter of hours' time. Keep an eye on the website and the companion app for that. And it's been great having this GC competition. There will be more. There will be more racing and more tournaments, and there is always a ride for you and a run. And if you do Stage 5 and finish off the Tour of Watopia, I'll see you in there. If you want to take me on, I will race it at some point. You can find me by the companion app. I'm looking forward to it, and we will see you again soon. From myself, from Matt Stevens and from Nathan Guerra and from Hannah and from Ray Hubble as well. It's been a joy to bring you this series. Stay safe. We'll see you in Watopia.